Grade 6. This is a math lesson for lesson 5-8. This is kind of a combination of ideas that you've already learned and putting them into use to solve certain types of problems. Now, there's going to be a number of types of problems here I'm going to show you in a few seconds. Don't be afraid to ask questions about things you don't understand. Let's look right here. I'm supposed to decide, should I put a greater than, less than, or equal sign when comparing these two fractions? Here's how I do it. The first thing I've got to do is I've got to think in my head, what's a common multiple of 6 and 9? And the smallest multiple they have in common is the number 36. The multiples of 6 are 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, and 36. The multiples of 9 are 9, 18, 27, 36. Notice they have that common multiple. And then I look at the relationship. I want to change this fraction into a fraction that has 36 as its denominator. The pattern working across is multiplying by 6. So I'm going to use that same pattern on top here. Over here, the pattern is multiplying by 4 to get from 9 to 36. So I'm going to use that same pattern on top, and I get 28. Is 30 bigger than or smaller than 28? It's bigger. Therefore, 5/6 is bigger than 7/9. I change both fractions to a fraction that has a common denominator. Let's try this one. What's the common denominator? I think it's 50, right? So they kind of make it easy on me because I already know the second one. I don't even need to change it at all. But I'm going to change the bottom one to 50ths, and that means a multiplying by 10 pattern. So I'm going to do the same thing to the top. 10 or 7, which one's bigger? 1/5 has to be bigger than 7/50ths. Let's try this one right here. What's a common multiple for 16 and 10? It's a pretty big one. It's actually 80. It's actually 80. So I need to change both fractions so that they have 80 as their denominator. This is times 5, and this is times 8. So I'm going to use those same patterns on top, and I'm going to get 45, and I'm going to get 56. And so in this case, I have to have a less than symbol because 45 is less than 56 80ths. Oh boy, here's a toughie. Here's a toughie. What's the common multiple of these two numbers? I happen to know that it's 300. So down here we're multiplying by 5. Over here we're multiplying by 4. 48 times 5, I don't know what that is. That's 240. 55 times the 4, because I got to continue that multiplying by 4 pattern, is 220. Which one's bigger? 240 is bigger, so I need a greater than symbol. We're changing the fractions so that the fractions have a common denominator. Down here, one more of that type. What's the common multiple of 25 and 50? Hopefully you can tell it's 50. I don't even have to do anything to the right-hand side fraction. It's already in the form of 50ths. Here we're multiplying by 2, so that gives me 22 on top when I follow the pattern. I need a greater than symbol here because 11/25 is greater than 13/50. Here we have a new type of problem. They want us to change these so that we have them in order from smallest to largest. From smallest to largest. Well, the problem is one of them is a fraction, one of them is a decimal, and one of them is a percent. We need to change them so that they are in the same type of number so that we can compare them. Well, I happen to know that 0.6 is also 6/10. So right off the bat, I know that this one's bigger than this one because they have the same denominator. Let's change this to a fraction. If I change it to a fraction, I get 72 hundredths. But that's not in tenths, is it? I wonder if I can change these two into hundreds. I sure can. 7 tenths is 70 hundredths because it's a multiplying by 10 pattern. And 6 tenths is 60 hundredths because it's a multiplying by 10 pattern. So now I've got these three fractions to compare. Which one's the smallest? This one right here. So I'm going to put this one as my first answer. Can you see that? No, I can't. I changed 7 tenths to 70 hundredths. I changed 6 tenths to 60 hundredths. So this one's got to be the smallest. This one's got to be second smallest. And this one's got to be third smallest. Now notice, when I write the answer, I don't write these fractions as the answer, did I? I wrote the original numbers in order from smallest to largest. Let's go on to this next one. Again, I'm going to change them all into one form. I'm going to choose to change them into fractions again. But you'll notice, they don't all have the same common denominator. So I'm going to change 3 tenths into hundredths. How many hundredths is that? That's 30 hundredths. And I'm going to change 2 tenths into hundredths. How many hundredths is that? That's 20 hundredths. So we're going to look at 22 hundredths, 30 hundredths, and 20 hundredths. Which one's smallest? This one is. So I'm going to write 2 tenths as my first answer. What's my second answer going to be? This one right here. So I'm going to write 22%. And that means this one is my biggest number, 0.3. So those are my answers there. Let's move over and look at another problem that's similar to that. 2% is really 2 hundredths. This is really 18 hundredths as a fraction. And this is still 1/5. I need to change this into hundredths, don't I? This is a times 20 pattern. So I get 20 hundredths. So now I got to look at this, this, and this. Which one's smallest? This one is. So I'm going to write 2%. What's second smallest? This one is. So I'm going to write 0.18. And then finally, I'm going to write this 1/5 because that's the biggest one of the three numbers. It's about changing them so that they are in the same form. Now, you know what I could have done? I could have changed these all into decimal numbers. I know that this is 0.2, and I know that this is 0.02 when I change it to a decimal number, and I know that this is 0.018 because it's already in decimal form. And then I could just simply line up the decimal points of these three numbers and decide which one's smallest. And it has to be this one right here, which is what I wrote down here. I wrote 2%. And then the second smallest one is this one. So I wrote that. And the third smallest one is this one when you're looking at the decimal numbers. And so that would be that 1/5. Okay, how about this one? This is one where I might just change them all to decimal numbers. I happen to know that this is 0.75, and I happen to know that this as a decimal number is 0.70. Which one's smallest? It's got to be this one, right? 70%. Second smallest would be this one, and third smallest would be this one. Now, if I did the fraction way of doing this, this would be 74 hundredths. And this would be 75 hundredths, and this would be 70 hundredths. But it's still that this one is the smallest one, and it's still that this one is second smallest, and this one is still third smallest. What if somebody gave you these two fractions and said, can you find the smallest denominator that they have in common? The smallest denominator that they have in common? What they're asking you to do is think about the multiples of 8 and think about the multiples of 32. The multiples of 8 are 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, 56, 64. And the multiples of 32 are 32, 64, 96, and so on. What's the smallest multiple they have in common? It's 32. Right? That's all they're asking you to do. Find the smallest denominator they have in common when you think about the multiples. Okay, here's one up here. We're on the chalkboard where I need to figure out which one's bigger. So this is one of those cases where I'm going to change the fractions into fractions that have the same denominator. I'm going to change it into 18ths. Hey, this is a times 3 pattern, so it's got to be a 3 there. That means number 6 is equals. Oop, got something in the way here. Number 8, I need to change either this into a decimal number or this into a fraction. I'm gonna change this into a fraction. I know that that's 2/10 because it's occupying the 10th spot. And then I'm gonna think about a denominator that I can change these into. I'm gonna change them into 40ths, and I get 5 40ths here, and I get 8 40ths here. So which one's bigger? This one. So it's gotta be the less than symbol. Now, I could have changed these into decimal numbers. This is 0.2. If I divide 1 by 8, I get 0.125. Now, at first glance, this number might seem bigger than this number, but it's not. If I line up the decimal points, 0.2 on top of 0.125, and I fill in the empty spaces with zeros, 0.200 has got to be bigger than 0.125. Okay, let's look at this one right here. What would I do in this case? I'd change them all to fractions. This is 1600ths, this is 2/10ths, and this is 3/20ths. And then I change them all into fractions that have a common denominator, in this case 100. So 3/20ths is how many hundredths? That's 1500ths, because it's a times 5 pattern. 2/10ths is how many hundredths? That'll be 20 hundredths. And this one's already in the form of hundredths. So which one's the smallest one? That's this one right here. So 3/20ths is our smallest number. What's our second smallest number? This one right here, 16%. And which one's third smallest? The only number that's left, 0.2. So number 10, this is the order from smallest to largest. How about this right here? The directions for number 10 and 12 in your book ask you to determine whether or not this is rational or not a rational number. And the answer to this is that it is not a rational number. Why? There is repetition going on, but it's not a constant repetition. It's 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2. That's not a constant repetition. It's not like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, or 1.1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. So this is not a rational number. Right? Rational numbers are any numbers that you can turn into a fraction. Let's try this one right here. What would be the common multiple or denominator of 15 and 9? I think it would be 45. This is a times 3 pattern, so I get 33 on the top. And over here, this is a times 5 pattern, so I would get 25 here. 33 or 25. That sounds like a greater than symbol. Let's back up to this one right here. This one, we're changing them into fractions. How about that have 15 as their denominator? A times 5 pattern right there means a 10 there. The other one's already 10/15ths. They're identical. Equal sign. How about 20? Oh, I think I need to change this one to 14ths to match this one. This is a times 2 pattern, so I get 6. 5 and 6, that's got to be less than symbol. 5/14ths is less than 6/14ths. How about here? We're just looking for a common multiple or a common denominator for 17 and 4. If I think about the multiples of 17, I get these numbers: 17, 34, 51, 68. There it is, right there. The common multiple is 68, because 4 does have 68 as a multiple, but it doesn't have any of those numbers as a multiple. How about this one? What's the common multiple of 6 and 8? Or in other words, the common denominator of 6 and 8. If I think about the multiples of 6, there's 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. Wait a minute. It's 24, isn't it? 24 is the common multiple, because 8 also has 24 as a multiple. How about 6 and 50? What would be the common denominator for 6 and 50? If I do the multiples of 15, that's 15, 30. Ooh, there it is, 30, because 6 shares 30 as a multiple. Okay. Hopefully that helps get you thinking about how to do this.